Picture this, 4:30 in the morning, most of the country is asleep, but somewhere out there right now is a contractor sitting at his kitchen table going through some blueprints line by line because the job came in and somebody has to count all the studs before the crew shows up. Nobody gets into this construction business because they love takeoffs. Let's face that. You get into this business to build things, but before you can price a job, you have to earn it, right? With 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours of counting, measuring, cross-checking. So today we're doing something simple. We're going to run a real takeoff 2 different ways. The way most contractors still do it and are still going to be doing it, and the way it's about to get done from now on. There's some things that nobody likes to face or talk about in this industry, in construction. Before a single nail gets driven, before you even know if you're going to win the job, you've already paid a tax. Now, this isn't a tax that you first start thinking about. This tax I'm talking about is called the takeoff. So you comb every one of these sheets, right? You tally materials, trade by trade, all of them, framing, roofing, electrical, plumbing, foundation. You cross-check all the numbers so you're not the guy who shows up 40 sheets of drywall short. Then if you're bidding multiple jobs that week, which hopefully you are, you start over completely on the next one, totally from scratch. Now, I wish this was an exaggeration. On a typical residential project, a manual takeoff can eat 8 to 20 or more hours of an estimator's time, and that could be you. And that time doesn't come from nowhere, right? There's a price on that. It comes out of your bidding capacity, your job site time, your family dinners, your sleep, your sanity, your stress levels. And here's the part that actually keeps a lot of people up at night. One miscalculation on that takeoff, one missed sheet, one bad count can snowball into hundreds of thousands of dollars in overruns on even just a modest remodel. So what happens? You pad the bid to cover this inevitable uncertainty, right? And then you either lose a job because of the price, or you win it and you eat the difference. And that's the tax, the manual takeoff tax. Now let's talk about what's replacing it. Now you've probably heard AI being thrown around all over the space right now, especially in the construction industry. Upload a blueprint, get a takeoff, and done. It sounds great, but here's a big problem. Most general AI tools were not built for construction or to read blueprints. They were built to be generalists, right? A pretty good or decent at everything, but really an expert at nothing. And construction estimating isn't a generalist job. It takes 3 things happening at once. Number 1, reading drawings at multiple scales and understanding how spaces relate across different sheets, right? Then number 2, connecting a dimension on one sheet to a detail buried on a completely different sheet. And we know how that works, especially with like this new construction. And then finally, number 3, knowing the unwritten rules, the waste factor every framer especially just knows, the way a seasoned estimator reads a window schedule without thinking twice. So run most AI tools on the same set of plans 3 times in a row, and the answers are going to swing by 50 to 70%. Sometimes they're just flat out wrong too. Not necessarily because the AI is bad, but because it was never trained specifically to think like an estimator in the first place. So the team at Handoff asked a pretty obvious question. What if we built an AI that actually was trained to think like an estimator? And that's what we're going to be looking at next. So this is a really big claim, right? So to actually measure this instead of just saying it or claiming it, Handoff built something called Takeoff Bench H1, 10 real residential blueprint sets scored against material quantities that were verified by actual expert estimators. And that's a key point right there. No shortcuts, no cherry pick plans. 8 leading AI models were run against those same plans. So here's what happened. So they clustered between 50 and 56% accuracy. And here's the number that should stop you. The gap between the best and the worst of these 8 AI models was smaller than the gap between any single one of them and Handoff's model H1. And H1 is what we're talking about today. H1 scored, get this, 81.6%. How's that for precision? So for some context, experienced human estimators using Takeoff software scored around 77 to 78% on the exact same benchmark. H1 didn't just beat the other AI models, it matched and slightly edged out experienced humans who are expert estimators. Now, here's the number that actually changes how you are going to be running your week. And I know you're already thinking, wow, this could really be a game changer. So those human estimators took up to a week to finish the work that Handoff's H1 completes in, get this, around 2 hours. Listen to that again, 2 hours. A week of work done in the time it takes to run a job site walkthrough and even grab some lunch. So let's talk about the workflows. Let's look at how this works in real time. So you have your blueprint open. You got a first pass. You want to do, for example, your framing, and then your second pass, your roofing, and then third, you might do electrical. So you're flipping between all these floor plans, right? So if you have second floor, you're flipping between pages, and you're looking at A1, and then you got to look at the wall assembly detail on A8, trying to remember if that dimension already got counted somewhere else. That's a lot to keep in your brain, right? So you've got a legal pad covered in tally marks, your blueprints all scribbled on, 2 hours in, and you're maybe on trade 3 of 9. Now, you take the same blueprint, PDF form, upload it into Handoff. H1 reads the full set, every sheet, every trade, every little detail, and they do it the way an experienced estimator would. And then it deploys specialized agents per trade. So it's able to connect that A2 and A8 that we talked about and reference them automatically. It applies a standard waste factor a framer would use without being told, and it reads the window schedule, door schedule correctly, all on its own. Now we're talking about some calculator, right? It's not some template that spits out square footage math. This is a system that was built from the ground up for one job, reading blueprints like better than an estimator, and it's been proven and it shows. And the moment it's done, it doesn't just sit there as a PDF for you to, text your project manager. It flows straight into an estimate and your proposal. Same system, same workflow, 2 hours instead of 2 weeks. No retyping numbers into a second piece of software, no copy and pasting, no juggling between spreadsheets and emails and calling all the different subs. It's right there in one project management system. Now, aside from all the obvious things, here's what this means for you. Here's the thing about benchmark scores. It's a number in the chart until you translate it into real life, into your Tuesday night. So if you're running lean, and most of you are, 2 or 3 people covering field and office, every hour spent on a takeoff is an hour not spent bidding the next job or marketing or managing the crew or actually spending time with your family, or maybe think about this, it's crazy, even have a hobby. More bids should mean more revenue. Instead, for most contractors out there, more bids just means more nights hunched over blueprints, more stress. While you might get some more money, there is a better way. Getting those hours back doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your risk. When the whole drawing set gets read, not just skimmed, the odds of a missed sheet turning into a 5-figure overrun go way down. And plus, you review the numbers instead of generating them totally from scratch. And that is a different job entirely. That's something we always talk about. Nobody got into contracting to become a professional blueprint reader. Like, who wants to be doing that? You want to be on the field or talking to customers, getting new projects. We all got into this to build things, and getting that time back is all the point of this. So the question you're going to be seeing a lot, manual takeoff versus AI takeoff. One costs you 8 to 20 hours and a week of turnaround. The other reads the entire drawing set the way a seasoned expert estimator would, and hands you a finished takeoff in just about 2 hours. H1 is live right now for Handoff Scale Plan subscribers and available for enterprise teams through the API. If you're already in Handoff, your next set of plans is ready to be read. If you're not, this is a pretty great time to see what it can do. The link to try it out is in the description. If this saved you from doing one more takeoff at midnight, that is the whole point. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you, and we'll see you for the next video. In today's video, let's walk through 6 ways contractors like you are using AI, there's that word again, right now to save hours.